So I'm here with Nicole, one of the stitchers, who will be working on the replica of General Washington's marquee, the first Oval Office at Colonial Williamsburg during the summer of 2013. What are you working on right now?
We are working on reproducing some of the seams, the process of how to finish those as they were done in the tent. We found some unusual stitching processes there that we want to make sure we have down right before we go to make the original.
I noticed that the piece you're working on is actually triangles that you're putting together. Does that create any challenges when you're trying to get this all together and have it?
A little bit. It means that you have to absolutely finish each seam off. You can't just simply seam it and leave it as is. You have to do what we call felling, where we're folding the seams over and then stitching them down. They use the selvages, the edges of the fabric that won't unravel as much as they can, but in cutting triangles, like you said, you don't have an option. You can't weave a triangle.
That's a good point. I didn't think about it. So you're starting with a big long bolt of cloth and probably cutting various shapes then to end up with this oval-shaped roof and peaked roof of the tent?
Yes, very different types of triangles to keep adding them up so you get a good fanning of the tent.
There's a lot of math involved.
Yes, there is. Unfortunately for some, I'm sure there's a lot of math involved in sewing and patterning.
So was that part of learning this skill in the 18th century then? If you wanted to be presumably a tailor,
oh yes,
seamstress, you would...
Whenever you apprenticed into any position, they taught you a wide range of things, even down to math for accounting, so that way you could run your own business one day.
Oh wow. Don't think of, say, women in the 18th century running businesses.
It was very common. They were, in those cases, called a femme sole, a woman alone, and sometimes they inherited it when their husband passed away, but some of them did go into their own business, purchase their own business, and actually ran it completely by themselves. It was not that uncommon.
So I'm used to, thinking of flag makers. Obviously, we talked earlier about Betsy Ross as probably the one seamstress of the 18th century, but we know women were also working in war industries, sewing tents, that sort of thing. As you have this cloth in your hand and you're sewing, I mean, how is this different from other types of 18th century sewing that you've done?
To be honest, it's not so far.
Okay.
The fabric on this particular tent is a little heavier than I'm used to sewing for, say, women's garments or men's suits, things like that, but it's the same stitches that are used on just so many things, the same stitches that are even used in leather work in some cases.
So what you're telling me is if the Army comes into town and orders a whole bunch of tents, there really wasn't any retraining necessary. You could just apply those skills from your everyday trade to this new type of
that's probably why so many trades were able to feed into the tent making trade. It didn't take one specific trade in the colonies.
Gosh. So you're looking forward to the summer of tent making ahead of you?
Yes, I very much am. We have a wonderful group of stitchers working together with lots of different backgrounds, and I think it will be a great group of knowledge for the summer.
Very exciting.